episode contains stories of tragic accidents, trauma, and pain medication addiction. If you or someone you know is struggling or in crisis, help is available. Call or text 988 or chat 988lifeline.org. Welcome to the It's Your Story to Tell podcast, where brave people share how they overcame tough times to inspire others in what's possible. I'm your host, Megan Babcock, and also the founder of the It's Your Story to Tell community and the Coach Collective. Today, I'm here with Matt. I had the privilege of meeting him at the Real Business Owners First Conference this September in Texas, and wow, what an amazing conference. Wasn't that so good?
Oh,
I was so thankful to be there. I thought for their first conference, it was amazing what they put on, and the quality of the people that they had in that room was
They killed it. They did.
impressive.
They blew it out of the water, didn't they? It's going to be hard to one up that one.
I know.
But leave it to Trevor and
They
Kel.
set the bar. Exactly. I think they can do it. I was really fortunate. My son actually found the Real Business Owners on their podcast and invited me. So I got to attend it with my son, who has recently starting an excavation company, and his girlfriend. So it was just such a fun time for us to learn together. And I think what I liked the most about that conference is their focus on your personal life, because we know that when our personal life is a mess, we are not going to be as successful as we could be in our professional life, right? And they did such a good job of really bringing powerful personal and professional development.
So good. Yeah, and the variety of speakers, and I mean, it was great. I mean, from bodybuilders to business owners to mindset coaches, everybody, right? They had a variety of people there. It was awesome.
And everyone had a story of, like, these weren't just people who were like, oh yeah, this is what success looks like, it's easy. No, they were like real business owners. Like, here's the real behind the scenes of how hard. And just like, I mean, there were people, I got to meet you. You've overcome so much. But there were people who, drug addicts, prisoner, and now to have these successful businesses, I thought it was just, I was inspired, because it's like, what is possible when you decide that you want to change your life? Like, you're never too far gone. It's never impossible.
It's never too late.
So, yeah, right?
Yeah.
So I just can't wait to give you this platform to share your story. We were talking yesterday, you just are so exuberant. Like, everything you put out, I'm just like, yes, yes, yes. So I am really excited for this community here about your story and how you were able to go through some really hard things. And now that you're using it as a platform to help others. So without further ado, thank you and welcome, Matt. There's so much to share, and we're going to do it over 3 different episodes, but we could probably talk for hours and hours.
when it's easy, Megan, we just kind of, your vibe attracts your tribe, and and thank you for all the love. You're always giving me love on social media. So thank you for the follow and all the love. I appreciate that a lot.
Well, people need to see what you're sharing, because it's always such a bright spot. I know in my day, because let's face it, like real business owners, people going through hard things in life is hard, right? So I love your vibe is your tribe, because yes, when I was able to change my mindset and my vibe, I started attracting a totally different group of people.
Right. And everybody wants to please somebody else, but as soon as you start pleasing yourself, taking care of yourself, then it seems like things start to fall into place. And but it's not like an easy thing to do at first, especially when you're negative or you feel so overwhelmed with life, or you get hit with something tragic, and you said everybody's going through something. Everybody's going through something, and so often people suffer in silence, thinking that they don't want to burden others with their problems. Or, like, for example, I'm paralyzed, and people think, oh, well, my problems aren't as big as Matt's, and I don't want to. Not true. Not true at all. I'm just built for this particular challenge. I'm not built for the challenges that other people are going through, but that does not diminish their challenges in the least.
So powerful, so
Yeah,
powerful. I spent so much time stuck for that very reason, because I was always diminishing my experience and saying, gosh, like, stop being such a baby about this. Like, you need to put on your big girl pants. Like, everybody else has it worse. And I then kept attracting more and more traumatic things into my life, instead of saying, like, no, that was hard, that I'm validating it for myself, or being in a group where people could hear my story and empathize, but then encourage me. We don't want people to get stuck in the trauma. We want to encourage them to say, like, look what's possible. And that's like
right.
the whole point of this podcast. And I know probably what you're doing with Inspire, right? I
Yes,
see your brand,
that's
your
my yep, that's my brand.
I got the earrings. I should have put them on for today. I love the earrings, the little, like, guitar picks, right?
Yes, and I've got little black ones now too that I need to send me your address, and I will
Ooh,
email you, or sorry,
okay.
snail mail you
Yeah. I was
some
going to
black
say,
set.
have you figured out how to email things? That is going to be a very amazing innovation. One day, one day.
One day, for sure, for sure. Funny.
Well, Matt, just tell us a little bit kind of about where life was kind of leading up to, that fateful day where everything started to change. I'd love
Okay.
to set
Well,
the context.
I've always been extremely motivated, self-motivated. I've been an athlete my whole life, and nothing's that came easy to me. But I was always good at everything. I wasn't fantastic at one thing or another, but good at everything. I was that annoying kid that could pick up a ping pong paddle and kind of do my thing. But life's going great. Married my high school sweetheart. We're coming up on 29 years of marriage. We have three amazing kids, and life was good. I graduated from high school, got right into the trades, and became an electrician because I needed to support my family. My wife stayed at home while I worked day in and day out. And you know, at, to be honest, early on, I got married at 19, and she no, yeah, 19, and she was 20. And it, I thought my idea of a husband, especially at that time, was, hey, I'm bringing in the money, I'm going to do the yard work, I'm doing the cars, you're going to rear the kids and stay home and do laundry and cook meals, and so that's the way it was for a
Mhm.
long time. And I started my own electrical company in 2000, and things were going great. I mean, you remember back in the 2000 to 2005, things were just too
Mhm.
easy, especially in
Right.
construction.
Mhm.
And so I started a company in Salt Lake, and I started another division in St. George, and that's where I live now. And I was in between those two companies all of the time. And one morning I woke up, I was late for a business meeting up at the hospital, of all things. And I hurried across town and grabbed one of my employees. His name is Brett. He was a 19-year-old kid at the time. I was 30. And as Brett jumped into the cab of my truck, it was raining. It was January 16th, Martin Luther King Day. And he pointed right at me and says, Matt, put your seatbelt on. And to this day, I do not like being told what
Mm.
to do. I just don't. It's kind of a trigger for me, and I'm working on that.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Especially, I've heard the story, so
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So, so I'm like, look, Brett, I'm good. And we jumped on the highway and started heading up the mountain. And as we did, rain turned to snow. And Brett, for a second time, turns to me and says, Matt, put your seatbelt on. And this time I gave him all the reasons. I'm 6'2", 215 pounds, just this mountain of muscle, really took care of my body. I had just run the St. George Marathon in October of that year. And hey, I'm your boss. You're 19. I mean, I gave him all the reasons, right? And then again, I pointed right back at him. I said, don't tell me what to do. And further up the canyon we went. Now, Brett has his seatbelt on. And now we have whiteout conditions, and I can't make out where I-15 starts or where it stops. And I'm following a semi-truck, and I'm just white-knuckled on the steering wheel. And the whole time I'm thinking, Matt, put your seatbelt on. And this other voice saying, if you put your seatbelt on, Brett wins. Of all things, Brett wins. And so the semi-truck that I'm following gets off the freeway because he can't make out where things start or stop. And as soon as I went through that semi-truck's tracks, Brett turned to me for a third time and said, Matt, please put your seatbelt on. And for the third time, I said no. Not a still small voice or a warm, funny feeling, someone sitting right next to me. And for the third time, I said no. So I crossed through that semi-truck's tracks, and I lose control of the back end of my truck. I start fishtailing, and I go down into the median. And as soon as my front tires caught that wet, fresh dirt, everything slowed down. And I remember thinking, oh my hell, we're going to roll. And my truck launches into the air, comes down on the driver's side cab, rips my hands from the steering wheel, starts its second rotation. And now it is throwing me throughout the cab like a rag doll. And then it's ended up on the passenger door, and everything's dark. It's black. I can't see anything, and I'm confused. It's early in the morning, but I realize the reason why I can't see anything is that my hips were covering my face. So the truck's on its side. I'm laying on the passenger door, and Brett's buckled in right here. And I looked up over my head, and I grabbed my knees, and I pulled them back down to the floorboards. Now I'm sitting on Brett's lap, and I knew instantly. I turned to Brett, and I said, hey, Brett, I'm paralyzed. And in emergency crews, it took them a little over 2 hours to get to Brett and I to cut us out of the truck, put me on a gurney, put me in a helicopter, and life flight me to LDS Hospital in Salt Lake City, Utah. So I get to the hospital, and they did CTs and MRIs and X-rays. And what had happened is when my back went into the steering wheel, I didn't snap into like a pencil. I suffered what they call a T12 compression burst. So the 12th vertebrae, so about 2 inches above my belly button, there was so much pressure that it grenaded in my back, and a piece of the bone went into my spinal cord just enough that at 30 years old, I lost everything below the waist. I remember waking up in ICU. I spent 10 days in ICU, and I underwent 2 surgeries. The first surgery, they went in and opened up my back and took out all that bone, and my spinal cord's now exposed, but they couldn't see any damage to my actual cord other than it had been stretched and bent. And but I wasn't losing fluid. It hadn't been cut or anything like that. And the second surgery, they went in and they put a basket around that spinal cord, took out one of my ribs and crushed it up, put 2 rods all the way down my spine. So I'm held together with 12 titanium screws, 2 rods, a plate, and a basket. And I woke up in ICU. I spent 10 days in ICU. And I remember the only thing I wanted to do was I wanted to sit up. Like I hadn't sat up in 10 days. And I looked at and as I tried to sit up, I felt like something was holding me down, like I was still strapped to that gurney. And I looked at my right hand, and there was electrodes and tubes coming out of my arm. My goal was I was going to reach down, grab my legs, and pull myself up to a sitting position. And as I reached down and grabbed my left, I couldn't feel the touch of my own hand. And that's when it sank in that this is real. This really happened. And my leg was so cold and so rubbery, non-responsive. And I just started crying. And the reason why I couldn't sit up was I didn't know how to anymore. So all the muscles from my abs, I'd lost my abs, I'd lost everything. So I did not know how to sit up anymore. So after 10 days in ICU, I got moved into my own hospital room. And now I grew up in Salt Lake. So people from my neighborhood that I grew up in, my faith, my elementary school, junior high, high school, college, university, everybody like had come those 10 days to wish me love and, hey, got you, it's going to be okay. But at that point, I just wanted my life to be over. I didn't want to live anymore. I remember thinking, if I've got to be in a wheelchair, how am I going to run marathons? How am I going to teach my kids how to play soccer? How all the things that I started focusing on all the things that had been taken at that point. And you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
And I just wanted this nightmare to be over. So as these hundreds and hundreds of people would come into my hospital room, I wouldn't open my eyes for anyone. I wouldn't acknowledge anybody in conversation. I just laid there like I was asleep or medicated. And at the end of the day, when everybody had left the room, my dad, he pulled a chair over to the side of my bed. Now, and I wouldn't even open my eyes or acknowledge my father. But he said, Matt, this is paralysis. This is big. You could quit. Matt, you can quit. Now, this is my pops saying this to me. He said, we can all quit, but do you have it in you to dig in, dig deep, and get it done? Dig in, dig deep, get it done. And he left the room. So now I'm wrestling with my dad's words. And when he said that, it really ticked me off. It really did. I got super upset. And I remember thinking, you don't know what this feels like. You have no idea how rubbery and how dead and how foreign and my body is now. And so I remember thinking, dig in. Okay. Paralysis. Dig deep. Life in a wheelchair. Get it done. Or what was I going to get done? I can't even sit up, for heaven's sakes. And I decided, you know what? I'm Matt Blanchard. I'm 10 feet tall and bulletproof still. I'm going to walk again. That's what I'm going to do. So the following morning, my occupational therapist comes bouncing into the room. And he's like, hey, Matt, what do you want to do today? I'm like, Casey, I want to walk. He's like, okay, we'll walk. But first, I want you to get your socks on. And I'm like, I remember thinking, this is my guy. This is my guy. We're going to walk. I just got to get my socks on. So he throws me a pair of socks and he starts leaving the room. And I'm like, yo, Casey, where are you going? I just got to get my socks on. He said, get your socks on. We'll walk. So I'm looking down at my body. And now I've got a brace on that goes from my hips to just under my shoulder blades so that I can't screw up all those rods and screws and everything that had just been put in. And I remember grabbing onto my leg and trying to pull it up to me, and it's not coming, and trying to sit up and trying to leverage my elbows back just to get these socks on. 40 minutes goes by, no socks. I'm frustrated as you can be, just sweat dripping from myself, just trying to get my socks on. And so what helps when you're frustrated? You cuss, right? You cuss. So I start cussing and I'm pulling and doctors and therapists are coming into the door. Are you okay? Are you okay? I'm getting my socks on. Leave me out. I'm get my socks on. And they'd leave. And Casey came in after these 40 minutes and he looks right at his watch and he says, hey, Matt, I thought you wanted to walk. Oh, really? That's what I thought. Really, dude? He's like, do you want help getting your socks on? And I'm just, Casey, I don't need help getting my socks on. Nope. Who needs help getting their socks on? And now I realize that we all need help getting our socks on. It's just that my socks look different than your socks. And I mean, we all have these goals and dreams, aspirations, and we all need to get our socks on first. And how much can we accomplish those things by ourselves? Sure. But with help from others, oh my lands, it makes the load lighter. It really does. So Casey asked me, you want help? I'm like, no, I don't want help. He starts leaving the room and he throws me, kid you not, a lasso. It has a kind of a loop at one end and a loop at the other end. And now I'm trying to lasso a foot that I can't even see. And another 20 minutes goes by. So we're an hour into just getting socks on. And I finally rope my right foot and I pull that foot up to me, and so I pull that foot up to me and I start having a conversation with my foot, right? Like, hey, dude, it's been an hour. We just got to get our socks on and we're going to walk. Come on. I throw that foot back down at the end of the bed and say a quick prayer and take a deep breath. God listens even if you cuss, right? So
He loves you
my
some cuss
first,
little too.
right? Yeah, right. So I wrote my left foot first time. Oh, so proud. And I pull that foot up to me. I start commending it on the great job it just did. Like, all right, you're on my team. And put my sock on. And I throw my foot back down to the end of the bed. So it's been a little over an hour. Casey comes walking into the room. He's applauding me. Hey, you got your socks on. Let's go walk. No, I was exhausted. Like there was nothing left just from getting socks on. So the day goes by and I realize, you know what, Matt, to get your socks on, to walk, this goal of walking, which is, hey, awesome. We all have goals. I needed to learn how to roll over again. I needed to learn how to sit up. I needed to learn how to go to the bathroom a different way, how to shower a different way. And I was lost, utterly lost. I wasn't this 6'2" mountain of muscle anymore. I was this broken man, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. Oh, and so I went to work really on the voices in my head with all the insecurities and things. Hey, you can't do this yet. There's a lot of things that we all can't do yet. But with the right team, the right people around us, and the right goals, hey, miracles happen. Miracles happen. So over the course of 3 months, I learned how to sit up again, how to roll over. Well, roll over first, then sit up, get dressed, get my socks on. So I think, I'm going to outthink my therapist. And I wake up at like 5 o'clock in the morning and I put my socks on, put my pants on, and I'm all dressed, ready to go, got my brace on. And Casey comes into the room because I know he's going to ask, hey, what do you want to do today? And every morning for 3 months, Casey, I want to walk. He said, okay, we'll walk. But first, I want you to get your socks on. For 3 months, that was his response. I want to walk. First, let's get our socks on. So this particular morning, he has my doctor with him. And the surgeon comes to the foot of my bed and he says, Mr. Blanchard, I understand you want to walk. I was like, no, you got it wrong, man. I'm going to walk. He says, look, you've suffered a very severe spinal cord injury. And in fact, over my career, the thousands of spinal cord injuries just like yours, they don't walk. Become independent in your wheelchair. It would be a waste of my staff's time. It would be a waste of your energy. Become independent in your wheelchair. And he turned around and he left the room. And I remember thinking, you know what? I've got no need for that guy anymore. He's labeled me, and we've all been labeled something. And I just decided I wasn't going to carry that label. Sure, I'm a T12 complete spinal cord injury. You look up my medical chart, it says T12 complete spinal cord injury, and they don't walk. Well, everything's impossible until it's not. People who tried climbing Mount Everest before anyone had ever summited it. Are you kidding me? Anyone who's ever tried has died. It's impossible until it's not. And I think today there's something like 6,300 and some odd people who have summited Mount Everest. An impossible task. The 5-minute mile, impossible until it's not. So for me, being a complete spinal cord injury and having that impossible, that's just what I needed to hear. I was just like, hey, all right, let's go.
You don't like being told what to do.
Oh, no.
I wonder if they knew that and they're like, we know how to get to this guy.
Oh, it's brilliant. This is brilliant. This story gets even better. It gets so much better. So I'm in LDS hospital. I'm like, hey, Casey, let's walk. And he's like, okay, very reluctantly, because I would not give up. I was just that bulldog that let's do this. So they put big old wooden braces on me with metal, like Forrest Gump braces. Those were what they were. And it took 4 therapists just to get me to a stand, and they would have to move my legs, and I'd look in a mirror and I'd tell my body what to do and things like that. Well, after 4 months in the hospital, they taught me everything to be independent from a chair, and it was time for me to be discharged and come back home to St. George. Now, I hadn't been home in 4 months. Did not know. I couldn't remember if I had steps in and out of my house. I didn't remember these things, and scared, so scared, because I wasn't walking yet.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't want to leave the hospital. But I came back home, and now I didn't have my team around me, the team that I'd built up there. So driven by fear, because I still didn't know what I was. I didn't know how I was going to provide for my family. I mean, I was so lost, so lost. So when we came home, I remember it. Anyway, here we go. I was in my bathtub, taking a bath, and I decided, my wife didn't sign up for this. Now, this is my girlfriend since I was 15 years old. And at this point, let's see, at 30, so we got married. Yeah, so we're 10 years into our marriage. My kids when I got hurt, were 4, 6, and 8. And I remember I was in my bathtub, and I decided, you know what? She didn't sign up for this. She's going to leave you anyway. You might as well get it over with right now. And so I said every mean thing that you can possibly think of to get this woman to leave me. And she's crying, and I'm just going harder. And she turns to me with tears coming down her face, and she says, I didn't marry your legs. I love you, and I'm not going anywhere. And at that moment, it brought peace, a lot of peace, because I knew, okay, she loves me. She loves whatever this is, whatever I am, she loves me. And with her, with at least somebody, things are going to be okay. And so I found doctors and therapists down here in St. George, thought, okay, maybe with the right attitude and the right effort, maybe Matt will walk again. And we went to work for years, for 15 years, because some goals take time. And, and when I first began, they would lay me flat on a with zero incline, and they would bend my knees, and my job was to try and push them back flat and not just let gravity take it. Mm-hmm. And then we went from a zero incline to a 1% to a 2, and because they put
building
electrodes
every
on my
muscle as you go. Yeah. Wow.
And mentally meant the affirmations, you're enough, you're enough, you've always been enough, you're enough. And I trained myself that anytime I had a negative thought, immediately I would say, you're the man, in my head. So a negative thought would come in, you're the man. A negative thought, I'm enough, I'm the man. And I did this to today. Very rarely do I have negative thoughts, because that voice still it's automatic now. You're the man.
That's so good.
It
was definitely the thing in my life. So I love that you're sharing this, because the thing that really allowed me to move out of the place that I was to being where I'm at today was I was given, I asked the Lord, what do I do? I don't know what to do. And he brought to my mind, take every thought captive and put it under submission of the Lord. And I was like, what does that even mean? And then he brought to mind the fruits of the Spirit. If it does not sound like love, joy, peace, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, it's not my voice. It's not your identity. And I had to replace it. And I joke, because I'm like, you never know how many thoughts you have until you actually start being aware to them, so that you can replace them. So I love that you're sharing that, because I do think our words matter. They become our actions, and then our actions become our life. So I kind of want to sum that up for this part. And
Yeah.
I want people to come back and hear more about this story. Because, like I said, there is so much here. But you guys, that is such a great tip on something that you can do today. That you
Yes.
don't need a coach, you don't need a counselor. I mean,
Yes.
all those things are good, but you have to become aware and then you have to choose to do something different. And
Eh,
that's what you demonstrate
Yeah.
in
Be
that.
mindful that your thoughts become your words, and your words become your actions. Your actions become your future. And here's something interesting that you may or may not know is that thinking it is one thing. If you say it aloud, if you say a positive affirmation aloud about yourself, it's amplified by 10. Just
Yeah,
hearing it audibly, it's amplified by
right.
10. If it's a positive thing, if it's a negative thing, like I'm not enough, I'm dumb, I'm ugly, I'm whatever, it's amplified by 70. So, yeah,
Power
seven.
of our words
Oh,
to transform our life. And I think that's such a great place. So, where can people find you? I'm going to put it in the show notes so that we can link to your social media. But what's the best way that they can find you? And then you guys come back because we're going to continue this conversation with Matt and his transformation over the next
I
couple
love
episodes.
that. Yeah, you can find me on Instagram at Maddie Blanch, Matty Blanch, Blanch, and then the number 3. On Facebook at Matt Blanchard. And then I also have on Facebook Today's First Step, which is my nonprofit that we'll get to later. And then you can also go to my website, BlanchardInspires.com. So, yeah.
Amazing. All right, you guys, I hope you've enjoyed this. Please come back, share this with somebody who needs to be inspired and encouraged because Matt's story is a powerful one that I think people will be able to recognize just how amazing the transformation is and what's possible when you take action like he's sharing with us. So thank you so much. And I look forward to having you guys back again in the next week.